Happy Wednesday, everybody. How are we doing? I'm Lindsey Hall. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach, which means that I love to help women deepen into intimacy with themselves and with others. And I love to help women own their power and their pleasure and really just live joyful lives that they absolutely fucking love. That is the whole point behind everything I do. We do it in lots of different ways, but that's kind of the main gist of underlying all of it. So, hi, welcome. So every week I do these tea break chats and I come on and I chat about what's been going on in the last week or so. 2 weeks in this case, because last week I was off with my kids for school holidays, so I didn't do one last week. And then I answer your questions. So I always put up a story box the day before where people can send me their questions and then I answer them. So it's a chance for a little bit of dipping into a little bit of free coaching stuff, which is super fun. So, but in terms of what's been going on these last 2 weeks, honestly, I don't even know where to start because there's been so much. I don't even know how to talk about all the things that's been going on. I guess, okay, key points, key lessons that have come out. So the last week I was off with my kids, like I said, for school holidays, and I had planned to take the whole week off of work. I not as in I was still going to put up my social media posts, but I wasn't going to be doing any work during the day because, my kids are 3.5 and 5, well, almost 6, and it's a bit tricky for me to concentrate because my brain doesn't switch between things very well. So I was going to give myself time off, anything new for coaching, and just put up some posts in the evenings after they were asleep. And giving myself that permission, that freedom to not do the work filled my brain with ideas, which was a little bit frustrating, not gonna lie, in a couple ways, but also awesome. It was frustrating in a few ways because I was getting all of these ideas coming. I was not trying to think of anything. I was playing with my girls. I was doing mom stuff with them. And all these ideas would come to me. Some of it was new stuff and some was projects that I've been procrastinating on a little bit. The update to the divorcee, which I keep teasing you about, but is coming soon. The divorcee is going to be changing soon, but the reason I've been teasing at doing it is I was stuck on some of the details. I just couldn't make myself come up with the final bits. And then when I was off last week, it was just flooding to me. We'd be sitting and watching Disney and somebody would be oh, it's going to be on those dates. And it's at this, the calls are going to be at this time. By the way, there's some hints. There's going to be calls and dates and times. It is going to be a live program that we're running together, as a start date, and we jump in. So stay tuned. But all of that just came to me when I was doing nothing else. And I was getting all these ideas for posts to share and things I wanted to say to people and all this stuff. And the reason it was slightly frustrating though, so that's awesome that all was coming to me. But number one was that I didn't have time to then act on all of those things because my kids were there. So I was oh, I've got all these things I want to do. And I was trying to jot down notes wherever I was and hope that I would remember what it was I wanted to say or do when I actually had the time to implement them. And then earlier in the week, after the girls would go to bed, I still kind of had enough energy to do some implementation stuff. But by the end of the week, I just was so exhausted and none of it was happening. It's a little bit frustrating of I've got the ideas, but no time to do them. And then the other kind of frustrating part for me, because I am still a recovering control freak and I'm doing way better in my recovery process. I would like to point out insanely better than I ever thought I could do. But I still like to be able to know this is how I can do the things. And so although I've very much been learning that relaxing and taking the pressure off and actually doing other things and getting out and moving, I know that that's where creativity comes from. I know that's where my best ideas come from. I know that me trying to think of a great idea because it's the one great idea, that actually doesn't usually work for me. They come to me when I have the spaciousness for ideas to come to me. But that's really hard to control. You can't control it. You don't know when the ideas are going to come. You don't know if they're going to come or what they're going to look like, or you can't make the ideas come. You can't make this stuff happen. The only thing that I can do is like go out and have fun and hope that the good stuff shows up, which I am leaning into and trusting way, way more, but is also, like I said, frustrating because I'm a recovering control freak and would rather be able to like, oh, if I do these 4 steps, then I know I'm going to get hit with a great idea. Like that would be far preferable to my brain, but it doesn't work that way. So that was like a big thing that came from last week, the school holidays. Another big thing, this is a completely unrelated thing, so I'm off on kind of different tangents, but there's just been so much going on. But it is worth me talking about this one as well, because if you saw my stories yesterday, you know that I randomly went to the beach. So my stories in the morning were me sitting at Cutlery Works, which is this place that I go to work quite often, and so I was there in the morning and doing stories, and then suddenly at the end of the day, you got a reel from me being like, hi, I'm sitting on the dock eating fish and chips. Surprise. And that's because it was a surprise to me too. I had no intention of going to the beach. In fact, I was going to be at Cutlery Works working during the day, and then we were supposed to have parent-teacher conferences yesterday afternoon, parents' evening, and then everything changed. So we got an email saying parent-teacher conferences were going to be rescheduled due to an Ofsted inspection, and I really wanted to go to the beach. So I was having big emotional stuff happen yesterday. I can't even tell you how many times I cried while I was sitting there in this public place. A few times I went to the bathroom, and a few I just sat there at the table. But I had... and I don't want to go into the details of why I was so emotional and all the emotions that were coming up. I don't want to go into all the details because it's not just about me. But the short explanation is that the night before, I had run into somebody that surprised me, and lots of emotions came out of it as a result. And I know that's vague, which isn't my normal style. I'm usually like, boom, let me tell you all the things. But like I said, it's not just about me. So I was feeling all kinds of emotions from the night before, and I'm really working on like processing my emotions better. And again, like way better than I used to be, but it's still a thing for me. So I had gone that night when I was like in all of my emotions. I went over to my best friend's house, which is a big step for me because often what I like to do is process all of my emotions by myself. And then later, I will fill people in on the details and the outcome and all of that. But this time I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this on my own. I'm going to take this big ball of feelings that I have, and I'm going to call my best friend and say, can I please come over and cry on your couch? And I did. And it felt way better, let me tell you. I left our house being like, oh, maybe doing this with somebody else actually is quite helpful. And then I felt better the next morning, but there was still stuff going on. And then I took an action. Hi. And then again, I know I'm being vague here. It's really hard for me to talk vague because it's not my normal style, but I did an action the next morning yesterday morning that it was going to be hard for me. I was deleting something that I don't like deleting and I didn't want to delete. And I spent some time thinking about it, and I got my nervous system regulated. Like I didn't just do it right away when I was all up in my feels. It's like, let's just leave this and see how it pans out. And my nervous system calmed down. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Press delete. Immediately burst into tears, which I did not see coming at all. And I was like, damn it. Because I'm sitting in public at this place working / crying. So grabbed my journal because when I go to do work, I always have my journal with me too, because in this kind of work, you never know when stuff's going to come up that you're going to want to write about. So grabbed my journal, journaled it through, felt way better. But then was like, I just had this urge that I had some big releasing to do. I needed to clear out the rest of this. Like my journaling helped, but journaling doesn't help my body, and my body needed to release this big stuff that was going on. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the beach. I need the waves. I need the wind. I need the sea air to just help me clear out. And another big thing that I have been way leaning into is trusting these desires of mine, even when they don't make any apparent sense. Like going to the beach. Going to the beach yesterday. Like it was at this point, it was about 1:30 in the afternoon. And when I say go to the beach, I don't mean I live in a seaside town. I mean the nearest beach that I could find was an hour and a half away. The one that I liked the best was 2 hours away. But I was like, no, I don't want to get there that late. Like trying to find a closer one. I went on Google Maps and I just picked a random place that I had never been before. And I was like, I looked on the satellite image and I was like, that looks like a nice beach. Let's go there. It was supposed to take me about an hour and a half-ish, so I should get there by 3-ish. But at that point, my phone was already on like 40% battery. I was like, well, this isn't going to last me the whole way, especially because I need it for the sat-nav. So I stopped on my way out of town, bought a phone charger, bought this 10-pound sweatshirt from Asda because I knew it was going to be cold at the beach. So I was like, I'll just get a sweatshirt and I can get a cheap one. And then I went to the beach. And again, with the way that like things just trusting your desires and trusting these seemingly random thoughts and not overthinking them. So this beach that I picked out like completely in about, 1 minute on Google Maps. As I was driving there, it turns out it was in this little like, I don't even know what it was. It wasn't a trailer. It was near a holiday home place, but then it was like a community beyond that. They weren't caravans anymore. They were like actual little tiny cottages. But so I'm driving for like ages of this little 10-mile-an-hour road, sneaking through, and I was like, where am I? I should really just go back to the main beach, like back to Cleethorpes, back to the beach that I know. Like, where am I going? Like, nope, stick with it. You found this on Google Maps and you wanted to try it, so let's go for it. So I continued to follow my random intuition, and it took me to this little tiny beach, which was like mostly empty. And there was a really cool part where there was this kind of like wall bit, and I was mostly hidden from other people. And I needed that because I had, like I said, so much to release. And I stood there and if anybody was watching, I would have looked like a complete and utter freak because I was like shaking and swaying and like jumping up and down and moving my arms and just really having this like full body release. Oh, I forgot to mute my thing. So if you can hear little dings, it's because my phone's not on silent like it usually is. So I was doing all of this like full body, like moving to really release all the stuff that was inside me. And then I was like saying it out loud too. So I was standing by the waves and saying, I release this fear. I release that fear. I release this energy. I release this connection. I release this. I'm cutting this cord. And instead, I choose to receive this, that, and the other. And a lot of this was to do with relationships. So, which is why I said I'm being vague, because there's another human. So a lot of it was an old relationship that I'd been holding on to for so long. And I'd been like pretending to release it and hadn't actually. And now it felt time to really release, and being by the seaside helped me with that so much. That's where my day kind of took me. And then I found another part actually further down where there was like nobody around, and I got to do I had some stuff I needed to like say, to yell, to scream out. And that's really hard for me. Like I find it so much easier. Like I can move and do all the things movement wise, but to like yell and scream and it's scary for me. I don't like it. Like it's really hard for me to get myself to do that. But I found this part like on the marshlands, and there was nobody around and nobody was going to hear me. And I yelled and screamed, and then I lay down and like threw a tantrum, like full out, like pounding fists in the ground. It was big. It was this big emotional release. And I did that. And then I just laid there in the sunshine in the marsh because it was warmer on the ground with the sun on me than it was up in the wind. And was like saying like, I want all the rest of the energy, like any negative energy that's not serving me, I want to evaporate, like leave now and evaporating. And I did that until I felt my ass get really wet because the marshland I was laying on started to flood when the tide came in. And I was like, oh, guess I better get up now. And so then I got up and I went back to the main town that I knew and got some fish and chips and sat on the pier and ate fish and chips at the Cleethorpes Pier. And it was just wonderful. It was so cleansing and cathartic and exactly what I didn't even necessarily know I needed. I went there because I knew I wanted to like let go of some of these big emotions that were swirling around inside me. And I knew that I wanted to finally cut some of these cords, but I had no idea like everything else that needed to come out and to be released. And I didn't know that was going to be the place that I could do it. And so really, there's lots of points to all of this. So there's the following your intuition and following your desires, even if they don't make sense. If I had planned all this out, like I really, it made no sense to go. I didn't have any of this stuff with me that I needed, like a phone charger and warm enough clothes. It was late in the day, so it was actually, although I should have gotten there, I thought I was going to get there by 3. It actually was like 3:45 by the time I got there. And then, it's another like hour and a half drive back home. So it was a late in the day kind of thing. And then but trusting your desires. So even though it didn't make sense, I followed it anyway, and I got to do all of those things. The other lesson is that when we've got these big emotions, it's not just a head thing or a heart thing. Like my whole body had to get involved to release these emotions, and moving and shaking and jumping and stomping up and down, and all of those things really help shift all of this big stuff out of your body in a way that just talking about it or just journaling doesn't do. And I love journaling. If you've been here for a while, you know that journaling is one of my absolute all-time favorite tools for working through anything. But it's so much more than that. All of this, like your body holds so much. And so getting your body to release so much is huge, huge, huge too. So that was another big lesson. And then I guess the other part, again, I don't want to go into this part too much, but really being able to trust that you can do things in your own time and release the emotions when it's the right time for you. So I had tried to kind of cut cords earlier on some of these old things, and it wasn't actually, what I was releasing wasn't just cutting the cords on a single relationship. It was on relationship patterns and like behaviors that I have been doing for years and years and years. And it really looking at that and going, you know what, it is time to cut all of these. Like, I don't want to fall into that pattern anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. And really like clearing out all kinds of old stuff too. And knowing but I couldn't have done it any earlier because it wasn't the right time for me. I'd been like pretending to do it. And I was using the analogy with my coach of like, it's like when my kids are like, I didn't eat the chocolate egg. I'm like, really? Because you've got like chocolate all over your mouth. I was doing that, being like, I've gotten closure on this. Really? Because you've got non-closure all over. But it was finally the right time. And I woke up this morning feeling so much lighter and freer and ready for like all the new exciting fun stuff to come in now instead. So yeah, it was big. It was a big day. Okay. Pause for a drink. Okay, I think that's probably all for me. There's been so much more in the past 2 weeks, but in order to not keep you guys sat here listening all day, let me move on to the questions. I've got 2 questions today, and they sort of have similar answers though. But so the first question is, how do you be assertive without having people think that you're pissed off and angry and in a bad mood? So this question was saying that like, or without having that, like that emotion behind it. Because she said, when I'm assertive, people then assume that I'm in a bad mood and then they get in a bad mood when really I wasn't in a bad mood. I just was being assertive about what I wanted. And so my answer to this is a couple, multifaceted. But it starts with, this is not unusual. So as a society, we are not necessarily used to women being assertive. And women who are assertive and state what they want, state their desires or what they want or things that need to get done or whatever it is. When women like make statements, it is often, studies have shown that it's described as more aggressive than when men do it. It's described as demanding, as like, like she was being a bitch. Like we very much have this societal view. And again, like I said, like research backs this up like crazy, that women come across with all these negative descriptive words when the same behavior in a man wouldn't elicit those same negative words. So just know that you're not alone in this, first and foremost. fuck the patriarchy. But then, so then my next answer to it is that you are not responsible for other people's reactions, and you are not responsible for how they receive that information. And this is a really tricky one to kind of get to grips with. And so often the people pleaser in us wants to make sure that other people are okay with it. And, and especially if you're talking about like an intimate relationship or something like that, where like you don't want them to think you're mad at them. You don't want them to think that you're being a bitch or whatever it is, because you're not. Like you just want this thing done or whatever it is. So I know that, when it's coming from that place, like you're like, but I have to fix this. I have to make sure you're okay. Let me hold your discomfort for you. But then you're the one left holding the discomfort, and that's not fair. So it's really practicing and over time getting more comfortable with knowing that you get to state what it is you want. You get to be assertive about the thing you're being assertive about, and other people might not react great to that, but that is on them, not you. As long as you have done it, and this is all assuming that this is coming from, like, because you'd said in the question that you weren't upset or in a bad mood. You were perfectly happy with whatever it is. You want to be happy and assertive. So assuming that you are coming from a place of like I just need to say this thing, but I'm not upset and pissed off and about it. Which, by the way, you're also allowed to do. You do also get to be pissed off and grumpy and angry. And I know, again, like society doesn't think that women get to be angry, but we do, goddammit. But if in this case the question was, I'm not upset and angry, so how do I stop people from thinking I am? The answer is you can't stop them from thinking that you are. How they receive it is up to them. So you just approach it, and how it's coming out from you. You know your intentions behind it. You know where you're coming from. And if you're clear and happy on that, then it's not up to you to try and make them receive it in a different way. You can certainly talk about it if you need to, and again, like, depending on the relationship between you and the person that you're talking to, that might be helpful, but also not always. It's up to them to manage their reactions, and it's up to you to manage how it comes across. But there's no need for you to go over and above, like, I promise I'm not mad at you. I promise I'm not this. Like, let me help you. Let me reassure you I'm not mad at you. Let me make sure that you, like I said, like, make sure that you're comfortable. I will hold your discomfort and take that from you so that you don't have to feel any bit of uncomfortableness. I'll hold it for you instead. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You get to say, hey, I just need to talk to you about this thing. Here's this thing. And then they get to go away and handle that themselves. So I hope that was helpful with that one. Then the second question that I got was, how do you talk to somebody about new things that you want to do without them thinking like, oh, there she goes with the crazy ideas again? And my answer to that is very similar in that it's not up to you to control their reactions. They might think that. They might think, oh, here she goes. Like she's got some other, harebrained idea, or she's always coming up with this new thing. And that's okay. It's not your problem what they think. And again, I know if this is like people close to you, that can be different. It's different, than a total stranger where you're like, yeah, whatever, go ahead and think I'm crazy. If it's people that you love and care about, it can hit us differently. But again, it's not up to us to manage other people's thoughts and reactions. And if they think, there she goes with another idea, so be it. And if that means that they are then not supportive of these dreams that you have and of the new steps that you're taking, and the direction that you're moving in, or the business that you're starting, or whatever it may be, if it means they're not supportive of that, then you find yourself a support crew who is. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to cut these other people out, but you find yourself a support team who does get these dreams, who does support you, who does want you to succeed in them and believes in these dreams with you and cheers you on and can help you win. Because there's going to be, whatever new dreams and schemes and businesses and plans you're coming up with, there's going to be pitfalls and setbacks and roller coasters and all of it. So you find the people who are going to be there cheering you on that roller coaster, who are going to be like, celebrate the highs with you and be there for the lows and convince you that like, yeah, you should get back on and keep going. And the people who are over there going, she'll never follow that through, or, whatever it may be, they're just not the ones to share this particular dream with you. And that's okay. Like, and if that's not okay, if you're like, no, I can't have people in my life who don't support that, well, then it might be time to reevaluate those relationships. But it's not up to you to, again, bend over backwards to convince them that your dream is valid or to justify your dream. Your dream and the path that you are taking gets to make sense to you and nobody else. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else for it still to be worth it. I mean, look back at all the long line of inventors and creators and, all the people like, when I was talking to somebody this week about, the Wright brothers inventing the airplane and, nobody thought that like anybody was ever going to be able to, humans can't fly. How are you going to get something that heavy to stay up in the air? You're absolutely insane. And now we fly around these massive jumbo jets. Like, your ideas do not have to make sense to anybody else. And so if they don't, they don't. It's not about how you present it differently or how you convince them. It's just okay to know that your dreams are still worthy and valid and you share them with the people who believe that. Like me, because I always believe that your dreams and your plans and your the big exciting things that you want to do, I always believe they are valid and I will cheer you on no matter what. So you find people like me to be your cheerleader. But also you find that community. So I hope that was helpful. Let me think if there's anything else. I don't think so. I think that might be all I've got for you today. So I will wrap up the same way that I always do, which is by telling you that if any of this that I talked about today, brought anything up for you, triggered anything, brought up some thoughts, some questions, some comments, let me know in the comments or send me a message if it's more personal. But I always want these to have, to spark conversation, to spark, thoughts and questions. And I want to keep the conversation going. So put it in the comments or drop me a message if there's anything that you're like, that's what I'm here for. Ways to work with me right now. So I've got the one-to-one coaching taster sessions, which are on offer at the moment. So I don't do this all the time, but at the moment I've got 6 spots available. So 3 if you want to talk about divorce stuff, like literally anything where you're like, oh, this divorce fucking sucks. Yep, you can have one of those spots. And then I've got 3 to talk about sex stuff. So if you're like, sex life in my marriage is okay, but it's not great, or it used to be better, and I kind of, or or maybe you're like, no, it's really truly awful. Or you're like, you know what, it's already great, and I want it to be even hotter. If any of those things apply to you, you can have one of the 3 sex spots that's available in my coaching taster sessions. So those are £15 each to anybody who is new to my one-to-one coaching. So the only people who can't do it is if you've done one-to-one coaching with me before. But anybody else, drop me a message if you want one of them. It's £15 for a 45-minute session. And trust me when I say we can go right in the first session, in one session. It does not mean we're just going to dance around the edges. We can get some shit done. So let me know if you want those. On my website, you can still get the blowjob class, the dirty talk for the current round. This Sunday is our last call. I cannot believe it's almost the last call, but the current round is closed. But on my website, you can get the June round, which is already available. So in June, I'll be running another round of dirty talk. And you can split that into 2 payments. So 2 payments of £44 each, or you can pay it all as one, as £88. So that's up on my website. There's the divorcee, which is coming soon. Like I said, I'm changing it up, and it is going to be there's going to be a start date, and it's going to be we're going through this together as a group. There's going to be lots of stuff that already exists, but also some new stuff, and it's going to be fun, and it's coming really soon. So stay tuned for that. If you're like, what? Tell me more. Drop me a message, and I will make sure that I tell you specifically right away when it's out, because sometimes things get lost in the world of social media. Also, if you've got any friends who are anywhere near the divorce shit, then send them my link, send them my stuff so that they know that this new thing is coming up and they might want to pay attention. Now's a good time to get into my world if you're oh, divorce sucks. I gotcha. I got your friends. We got it covered. So that's mostly it. Oh, and then of course there's always one-to-one coaching with me. How could I forget? So you've got the taster sessions, but if you're nope, taster's not going to be enough, I want to dive right in, then you can always do one-to-one coaching with me. And I've got two different packages for a 3-session package or a 3-month package. That was a close call. So send me a message on that too. Okay, I think that really is everything now. So let me know if you want to talk more. And otherwise, I will be here next Wednesday, 2 o'clock. I'll put the story question box thing up on the Tuesday, the day before, so you can ask your questions, or you can always send them to me ahead of time and I will store them up for you. And until then, have a wonderful week. I hope you've got some sunshine. I finally have some sunshine here after a very gray morning. So yeah, that's it. Okay, I love you all. Mwah! Goodbye.